Guys, it's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I first off wanted to thank everyone that's obviously been showing support from the beginning, but also in the system. And now that I've launched this ulterior modes of going about, since I'm not going to monetize, and as I went over, just send me a message if you're on Buy Me a Coffee. I just wanted to transition it as seamlessly as possible. So if you would just prefer to stop, paying that subscription, I get that. Uh, this one, like I said, if you are a member of the Buy Me a Coffee and you just want to keep it the same, and not have to add anything else, that's fine. I'll send you a free membership. They're different in price, but I really don't care. I appreciate everybody that's been supporting from the beginning. So I know TCU, I know you're been on the Buy Me a Coffee. I'll get you your membership. I figured I'd start it off this way anyway. I did the week trial. I would have done longer. It was just it only let me do a week. I thought this way, anybody that's using the system, they have a week. You can at least test it out, see if you think the metrics, the system are helping you profit. If you think they're not, then obviously you're not going to stick with it. So I thought I'd go with the trial for everybody anyway. Just you know, if you're making $10, then maybe it's a good investment. If not, like I said, I appreciate everybody just giving the channel and the system a chance. This is going to be mostly dedicated to, and this is what I wanted to do on Buy Me a Coffee. I like just posting the picks out, and I'm doing that anyway. So I'll scroll through them real quick, for anybody that just kind of wants them quickly. And I'm also I'll just like post them in like a description or something. That way, and they'll be in my Discord. That way you don't have to watch, a 10-minute video every time you just want to tail picks. But I do like being able to explain why I like them. That way, we have a good bit of units in play today. So, just say you can't make every single play. If me explaining them and why I like the certain metrics and why I like certain ones, a lot of people will use my picks and other picks, and they'll narrow it down and pick the absolute best ones. So you don't have to tail every one of these. That being said, I am going to be putting probably a weekly graph, and once these sequences finish out, and obviously very new, we just started here on this Patreon, but as far as the way this system works, you'll find out pretty quick. It's leg 1, leg 2, leg 3. The goal is to lose as little leg 3s as possible, and we want to, every time we win a sequence, it's a unit netted. Sometimes it's more than one unit if we get plus odds, like on a hockey pick. I'm dedicating much more of my time and energy. I already have the next 3 days of college basketball sift out. I'm not leaving any stone unturned as far as the metrics go. So I'm making sure that I don't miss any good metric play, and it goes across all sports. So anyway, these I probably won't even put on YouTube. This is just for the people that are tailing, for the people that have obviously shown support. I feel like it's just an exclusive perk where I was not going to be looking through these games and posting them on YouTube, but I do think they're high metric plays that I like myself. So anyway, I'll go into these. I'll still be doing videos, just so you know. Again, I feel like a lot of the Patreon quote perks are a little pretentious, a little self-entitled, where it's like, oh, you can reach out to me and I'll respond, or you can do super chats, or all these different things. I just feel like is very entitled. Those things should happen anyway. Same with voting on what videos you'd like to see. That stuff should, if someone's making content, that should be their first priority anyway. But there is that feature now where you can vote. There's times people want me to cover stuff that I never would have thought about covering, so I'll be doing polls as the community grows, and obviously it'll be pretty cool. But let me just go into, again, the reason we do this over here. This is mostly for just tailing to profit as best we can. So all I am picking here is fading teams that are not good, that are great against the spread, like undefeated, almost a third of the way into the year. Just, again, if you watched last year, this is what happened, and we wound up going on some crazy spree when all these teams started finally not defying history. So we currently have BYU, who's 8-0 or something against the spread. Now Evansville's also good against the spread, so I like to explain that. So if you had a pick between that game and say West Carolina beats High Point, which is a pick 'em, by the way. That's why I didn't put odds on it. It's a pick 'em. Uh, I would probably lean towards the West Carolina because Evansville is pretty good against the spread. So again, I'm using all my metrics, but some of them are going to apply more than others. So anyway, Evansville good against the spread, but BYU is undefeated, 8-0 against like 6-2, something like that against the spread. So I like Evansville for the cover. West Carolina, it's a spread game, but it's also a 1 point game, so it's essentially a pick 'em. I like them to beat High Point. High Point's another team. Either all these teams that I'm fading are either 80% against the spread at minimal, up to 100%. Okay, and it's not like we're only 3 games into the season. That's why I like them all. Buffalo covers Butler, same thing. Butler is really good against the spread, so we are fading them. And Florida to cover Merrimack. Merrimack's 6-1, 7-1 against the spread. Florida's right in the middle of the pack. I think they're below 500. So I love Florida to cover Merrimack here. Pacific covers Idaho. Now we're on the opposite spectrum. Pacific is 1-8 covering this year. Again, you're not going to find a team in college basketball that finishes, say, 15-20% against the spread. They're going to finish closer to 30-40%. So all these teams are defying history, and sure, they could lose a few more, but that's why I use my system. So I like Pacific for the cover here. You could take them for the win if you want plus odds, but I've learned by doing that, by doing other things, alternative lines, a lot of times we would have won and we'll lose because of something like that. So actually there was one recently where we had a 2-point cover, and I was going to take them to win. Instead, I took the 2 points. It was a 1-point game, so it does happen pretty often. Bradley, this one I like a good bit, Bradley and Akron, because both teams are good on the over this year. So I like the under, again, just playing the metrics. And I don't mean to be redundant, but I do want to, again, especially because it's if you're first time seeing exactly how I chart these out, and I'm going to have them charted out in an official chart. I have the app downloaded. I just have to plug them in, and it'll make it a little bit easier where, I mean, typically, say Bradley under doesn't hit, then whenever we're playing tomorrow, let's just say it's Duke, we just plug that in, and it's going to be a leg 2. But I want to make sure we're keeping really good track of it, so that's why I thought I would do it this way. So anyway, I like Bradley, Akron under, both gone over a ton this year, and I just think that the public's probably going to take the over. Now, this one is the only one that I would say is a little bit, I don't know if it's conflicting, but it is in a way, because both teams really good on the over this year, but you can see it's set pretty high, 164.5. So you might say, oh, the public's more likely to take the under. That is a possibility. If you look at these two teams, though, they're basically like the Pacers of college. They play a crazy fast pace. They've been going over like every single game. The over-under's been set in the 150s, so I'm not too concerned about it. But again, if I had to pick a least favorite, most favorite type deal, I do like Bradley Akron's over-under a little more, because we have the metric combined with the fact the public's more likely to take the over, whereas with Kennesaw State, I could see the public on the under. That being said, I'm sticking with my metrics, so I like the Kennesaw State here to go under. NBA, the 2 games, and this is, again, I think the best way to do it is get every single pick. So what happens, like for my Buy Me a Coffee, I can't even do videos, but I'll post all the plays that I didn't post on YouTube, and then I feel like people that are a member, and I'm trying to make it convenient and give exclusive picks, but then at the same time I feel like if you're a member and now you got to watch the YouTube videos to get those picks, and then you go to Buy Me a Coffee to get those picks. So I'm just putting every single pick for the day in here. So whether I cover the Knicks later in a video, that's fine, but obviously on here is going to be released first, so nothing will change as far as this. I put a lot of thought into the NBA, and we're doing pretty good with the NBA. As you know, the Pacers are 1 game away from actually being in the finals, which would be a pretty crazy call. I don't like to toot my own horn, but I don't think many people had the Pacers doing it. With the love Halliburton's getting and the fact that he's not quite a superstar, I really think they're the team to do it. Now, the reason I like the Knicks covering the Bucks, I was thinking about taking the Bucks because I was like, well, Pacers Bucks would be a nice hill to climb if the Pacers could beat the Bucks. It would really be a lot stronger for them. But to be honest, the Knicks are like the other team. When I was talking about teams out of the East, I mentioned the Pacers immediately, and then I said, or a team like the Knicks or the Heat, because I think they make, again, it's a well cultured team. This tournament just seems to have, again, WWE Intercontinental Championship vibes to it. So it did make sense to me that a team like the Knicks, if not the Pacers, could definitely take this home. They got a big fan base. They're definitely not winning the finals or going too far in the finals. But this would be a great one for them. So anyway, I thought about both aspects of it, and I settled on taking the Knicks to cover because I do think, if nothing else, it'll be a close game. Very good chance the Knicks win this game. But again, I'm liking the Pacers in the semis anyway. But I'm going to take the cover. And the Lakers I like because since it is the inaugural tournament, the Suns have not been themselves yet. Like, we don't know who they are really. They don't have an identity, but they haven't had a full rotation yet. I think it'd be premature to have them go, this far into the in-season tournament. The Lakers make more sense to me. I think I'm seeing the theories that they could even represent the West. I could see that. Lakers Pacers is a very interesting one. And I know I might be a little bit premature on the Pacers, but I really do like them. And I could see one really good team making it. I don't think that team's going to win it. And I still don't even think it's going to be the Lakers. I think it'll probably be the Pelicans who just beat the Kings tonight. I actually really liked the Kings to do it. But the Lakers could do it, but I do think they're going to beat the Suns. The Suns are a team that they're going to reserve for, in my opinion, a deep playoff run, not an in-season tournament win. So for basketball, those are my two plays. And then for hockey, these are all metrics as well. Devils beat Canucks I like a lot because Devils are just terrible against the spread. And it's basically a pick 'em. So if you're feeling froggy, you can do the alternate line. Their Devils are technically getting the 1.5. So I'm not taking the 1.5. I'm just going to play the odds, play the value, I should say, and take them to win straight up. And again, it's exactly a 50-50. And on that same game, my favorite play of the entire hockey night's the Devils Canucks under. Again, I am doing like one because there's a lot of new people. So if you're starting and it's your first time seeing this, then I want anyone that is seeing it for the first time to be able to basically just start the sequence fresh. But anyway, I wanted to go into which ones I like the most, even though they're all leg ones. The Devils and Canucks have both gone over more than almost any team this year. They're both in the top 5, 6 in overs and well above 60%. So I think public's going to be slamming the over in this game, so I do like the under. Flames Wild have gone over a lot this year. So same concept. I like the Flames Wild to go under 6. You might get 6.5. I always post the lower. I try and post the worst case scenario spread. So if it's going between 6.5, and I got the under, I'm going to post 6. If we got the under, I'm going to post 6.5. That way, I try and look at it worst case scenario. Everybody should have hit. I try not to post the higher of the odd, if that makes any sense. So I always try and post the worst line someone's going to get. I guess is the best way I can put it. No one's getting 5.5 here. It's either going to be 6 or 6.5. But I think it goes under. And the final play is going to be the Kings to cover the Blue Jackets. Again, it's basically 50. I think it's like plus 110, plus 115. So if it was like 125 plus 130, then I'll post so people know the odds. But when it's that close, it's basically a 50-50. And you'll never see me taking like minus 120, but plus 115, 120, always good. I like the Kings for the cover here. Blue Jackets are really good against the spread this year. So again, just the metrics, and I think people are going to be taking the Blue Jackets. So I like the Kings for the cover. Now, as far as, like I said, this system, the way this works is it's really simple, and we'll see how good it works throughout the season. We've had down spots. We've had weeks, the last several days when I've been picking college basketball, we got hooked, a few things like that. So it just happens, losing leg threes. But for the most part, over the course of thousands of picks we've done, it does work out in the long run. So we'll see how it goes. So we got 4 hockey plays. Ideally, we hit them all. But say we hit 2 of the 4, then we're going to have a leg 2 for 2 units. Plug that in. And again, most people tailing me know exactly what I mean by that, but I figure just in case someone doesn't, like I said, I might wind up posting this on YouTube anyway, just so people can see if the system works and kind of, again, in my opinion, it does, but see how well it works for them. But I want to get everything on here first and just make sure everybody can tail all the picks we're doing for the day. And again, just so you know, I already have tomorrow's all of the basketball plays ready, so I'll have them out nice and early. I mean the 6th, not this day coming up. Because when I'm going through all the spreads, what happens is I'll find a lot of games for the 5th, and then I'll find a lot for the next day. So I found a lot for the 6th. There's probably 8 to 10 games, and they're all metrics. And it's a little tedious, but I don't mind just searching for them and finding the ones that are going to fit, the metric as far as teams that are not going to continue. BYU is not going to continue against the spread. Last year, UConn was the last team to fall. They were 10-0 against the spread. And then they lost, and they didn't even finish in the top 10 against the spread that year. So if you go back and look, they were 10-0, again, 100%, and they finished in the 60 percentile. And on the low end, Louisville was like 0-7 against the spread. They finally got their first win. They didn't finish in the bottom 10 against the spread. That's why I really stand by this metric. And we can start riding/fading a lot of these teams. So once BYU loses a couple against the spread, they usually lose a bunch in a row. And not just them, but that's just how it seems to work. So I know it's, not no bells and whistles. It's basically just straight to the point. But here's all of our picks. All leg 1s for 1 unit. No plus odds in this video. All the games I looked at, they were just all happened to be either heavy underdogs, so I'm not going to take Buffalo to win the game. Sometimes if it's a spread and the team's getting like 5 points, I'll feel a little froggy and take them to win outright. And with the hockeys, the -1.5 we have, a lot of times you'll get plus 150, plus 200 on that. But the Kings cover happens to be a 50-50, so like I said, it's just how it falls. But using the system, especially because a lot of times we're going to get plus odds, thought about taking Knicks to win outright. That would have been plus odds if they get that done. Or just tonight, we got the Pacers. Last night we got the Pacers. The night before we got the Packers. So getting them at plus odds is always nice. But I also like to just do my best to stick straight to the metrics. So here's all of our plays. Over double digits. So it's a good bit of plays. And I know of, again, we're going to have about at least 8 NCAA basketball plays tomorrow. I should say it is technically tomorrow, the 6th, because when I was looking for games for today, I found a lot that were playing on the 6th. So a lot of leg 2s that I have no problem plugging in, depending on how we do with NCAA. Again, say we split them, then the plays I like the most will become leg 2s in 2 units. And every single play is going to be documented. And it's also going to be, like I said, I'm going to do a recap probably every week. Because what happens is we're going to have all these sequences to close out, and then we're going to be opening new ones. So the best way to do a recap is basically I like to try and wait till every sequence is closed. But sometimes we have one heading to a leg 3, and I'm not ready to play a leg 3-4 unit game yet. I like to wait to get the most optimal one. So I'd say maybe about every 5 to 7 days, we'll have a good idea of how we're doing on our sequences, and I can post our net, or whether we're in the plus, the minus. I have a good feeling we're going to be in the plus, but I just figured it'd be a good way to start. So yeah, again, I do appreciate everybody for the support, and I'll be doing other videos. I thought another thing I could start doing, just separate, you don't have to watch them, but there's videos. I don't know if you guys heard about this 9-year-old kid. The NFL hasn't said a word about it, but got called a racist who showed up at a Chiefs game and was wearing red and black. The news decided to say he was wearing blackface. It blew up in their faces when they found out the kid's grandfather sits atop of a native tribe, and the kid's native himself, and it just didn't work out too well. And like the next night, we have the Chiefs, are the center of attention because of these quote crooked referees who blew the game. So you could see that the sports media likes to twist things. So I wanted to do a video on that. I wouldn't be surprised if it got yanked on YouTube. That's why I mentioned maybe just doing that on here. But stuff like that might get yanked, I figured I can go into more detail on here and be a little safer as far as getting ripped down. But I did find that interesting. If you guys didn't know, it was big news, and then they buried it the second they realized they were lying, and everybody was on to them. And I think that's why they made a big deal of the Chiefs getting, quote, screwed, because now everyone's talking about that and not this potential lawsuit. And I'm sure the NFL doesn't want those optics. So that stuff, the Damar Hamlin stuff, all these different things that got us ripped down the first time, in my opinion, I could post on here. But I do know most importantly, at least in my opinion, is doing our best to profit. So I wanted to get these out as early as I could. Like I said, we just kind of launched it up today. And then going forward, I'll make sure the second I see any opening lines, like I'll have tomorrow's college picks out really early for the next day and etc. But I thought putting them all in the same, you can imagine for the sake of a YouTube video, it's not to cover four different sports. Even figuring out how to title it is kind of tricky. So I thought for the people that are part of the membership and tailing, I could just throw every sport that I'm going to be playing in here. And that way, whatever video I put on YouTube, you already got all the picks. There's not going to be any other picks that I think of. I even looked at tennis. I just didn't see any plays I liked that much. But there's going to be no shortage of sports. We'll be doing betting on the election if you guys want to. I mean, I think we'll do pretty well. My point is I'll be posting every single play on here, whether it's a huge game like the Super Bowl or whether it's West Carolina playing High Point, because at the end of the day, a West Carolina win is going to give us the same amount as if the Knicks cover. One might be a lot more popular, but again, for me, my sole goal is to make sure, anyone that's showing support is doing as well as they can. Nothing bothers me more than if I'm in a rut or not doing well or our picks don't come through, because I really do appreciate everybody. I know you don't have to show support, but you do. So I don't feel good if we start off and we're freaking heavy in the red. So I expect to do good. Of course, I always say that, but I do think that with the metrics, using multiple sports, we have way more spots to pick. And especially with college basketball, history is not going to be defied. We're going to start seeing a lot of these teams start balancing out, in my opinion. So yeah, again, thank you everybody. And if you have any questions or anything, just comment. If you need a Discord link, let me know. And if you just want to talk, just send me a message. I always appreciate everything. I tried posting all like the perks and stuff. Like we'll be doing live streams. We'll be doing, again, videos that people vote on. Discord access. I'm going to chart. If I can email, I'll email to you guys. I know I can do that on Buy Me a Coffee. But basically a charted email of our weekly recap, or at least a recap every X amount of consistent days. And then every time when I go into tomorrow's picks, we're going to go over all these picks as well. So, we'll be able to recap everything that way. But I do like enunciating why I like certain games. That way, again, if you're like, there's a couple of these I can't play, maybe stay away from Evansville versus the others, because that one's, as far as metrics concerns, BYU's undefeated, Evansville's got like 1 or 2 losses on the spread, whereas High Point's undefeated, West Carolina's got like 3 wins against the spread. So, not that, again, and one's more important than the other, but when I'm just putting them out in posts, which is all I can do on Buy Me a Coffee, I can't explain why I like certain ones. I can't explain both sides, like the Kennesaw State one here. While I like the under, I like to also add caveats for someone that might be on the fence. Well, maybe you could just make a better determination. But nonetheless, these are all my picks, and like I said, we'll probably have about this many every day. Probably more, because with the NBA alone, you have so many games. But when college games, it seems like all the teams, I went over this before, and before I wrap it up, teams in college, it just seems like all the teams that suck against the spread, or the over-under, or they're really good against it, they all seem to play on the same day. It's really weird. Like, it's It's almost like they plan it out. So like all these teams that are horrible against the spread are literally playing today and tomorrow, the fifth and the sixth. Like 90% of the teams in the bottom 20 and top 20 are playing in the next 2 days, and it's not like there's a heavy schedule. The heaviest NCAA basketball day is Saturday actually. So it just seems like this. It was like this last year too, where all the teams that were in the middle didn't seem to play on the days that the teams that really sucked or really were good against the spread played. Maybe they do it so people can't play them all. I'm not sure, but it is kind of weird. And I think at the least people are going to see the theory of you don't have teams defy history on the spread. They always fall within a certain margin. So like these BYU's that are undefeated right now, looking like they're never going to lose, probably in 3 weeks they won't even be in the top 5-10 against the spread. It's just how it goes. So I'll be doing videos on that too. It's the like money management aspect and the value aspect. Again, it could be a little boring for some people, but if you're here to make money, then I don't think you'll be too bored by it. So yeah, this, like I said, I didn't want to take too much time. That's why in the beginning I ran through the picks, scrolled through them. That way, anyone that only had about 3 minutes could just tail them. But again, I also wanted to thank everybody. Just go into some of the things that I had planned going forward, and also go into the system so everybody's on the same page. So yeah, as I always say, take care and happy earnings.